live on YouTube. Let me start the recording on my end. Record to this computer. And this is the Male Entrepreneur Podcast, episode number 158. And we are live in 3, 2. All right, welcome back to the Male Entrepreneur, the podcast for men who win, with your host, Purdeep Sangha. Purdeep, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, man. It feels like it's been forever since we chatted, though. I don't know what it is. Maybe because the last couple episodes we had guests on, but we didn't get a chance to talk just between you and I.
Yeah, and we batch record, so it's almost been a month since we sat down and just had a one-on-one chat.
Yeah, I know. I kind of miss them.
Yeah, so we've got I think a timely, both for me, when I saw today's topic, I was like, oh man, that is perfect. That's exactly what I needed to talk about with Purdeep today. But I think also for the listener out there, it's probably going to be a very timely episode as well. So without any further ado, let's just go ahead and jump into this week's episode.
Yeah, it's really the power of optimism. And I think it's, like you said, it's a very timely topic because there's just so many people that are not in an optimistic state right now. And this is my personal message as well, because we need to be. And for a number of reasons. A, because society is just down and out. But B, as you know, I'm a big spiritual believer when it comes to energy. And we as a collective community, as a collective world, our energy has dropped so low that it's just negative energy around the world is impacting the way life is just for all of us. So I think we need to raise it as a collective consciousness. We just need to raise our level of energy, and we need to raise our level of optimism.
So from, I guess, two things. Number one, I just got done finishing with my annual, I do quarterly and annual taxes. And looking back at last year, 2019 was the best business year that I've ever had. 2020 was not as great. And so that was kind of depressing for me. But in my business as well, I have been noticing that the promise marketing, the uplifting, this is how great things can be for you marketing has just not been working as well. But the picking an enemy and blaming it on them and venting and outrage and that type of stuff has been much more effective as far as garnering attention and getting people to feel like somebody understands them. So both in my own life and in the lives of all the people that my clients serve, it seems like right now negativity is resonating at a fever pitch, and I'm not happy with it. I'm not happy with the fact that nobody's happy, Purdeep.
I don't blame you there, man. But you're absolutely right, because negativity has consumed everybody. It's the fad now. And I think this has been going on for a long time because it comes down to negativity sells a lot easier. No one wants to hear a happy story anymore, because if you're negative yourself, you don't want to hear about someone else doing well. You want to hear someone else who's doing worse than you, because that makes you feel better about yourself. And we talked about this on a previous episode where we work based on the contrast principle. That's how our mind works. We're constantly comparing ourselves to other people and other things. And so if we make 100 grand, that's great. But if our neighbor is making $1 million and we're only making 100 grand, we're going to feel less of ourselves. And that's just how the world works. That's how our human brain works. But we need to go back to that stage of actually being optimistic, regardless of what's happening around us. It is so critical right now, because we're raising a whole new younger generation that is, their kids are being around negative adults or non-optimistic adults. And this is impacting them. Now, I'm not blaming parents, because parents are having a tough time. I've talked to so many people, dads and moms, that have a tough time dealing with their kids at home because they're not used to it and their kids are acting up. And this is something we went through in the winter break. Our kids were off for almost 3 months. And man, their behavior was just, I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do with these kids. Either they're going to get a beat down or something's going to happen, because they're just not behaving. But within a week, when they went back to school, it was like they were back to normal again. I was like, wow, just them being around their peers, having some structure, it was just a totally different behavior that I saw.
Yeah. So I think that there's a couple things. A lot of us were just victim to circumstances. Bad stuff happens, and then we start focusing on it, and then we start realizing other bad stuff, and we start hyper focusing on that. And we're just kind of like, well, the world sucks, so I've got a bad mood. Um, Other people tend to, or have, I guess, have an ability to consciously select what they're going to pay attention to. And this is something that we've talked about on the podcast before as well. Um, but it's definitely hard when, uh, I guess right now we're kind of in uncharted waters globally. And also when we're constant, I mean, you talked about, recently you were talking about how you got rid of Facebook. You're just not logging onto it. You've kind of, you've kicked it out of your life. But
Yeah.
man, when you log on to social media, it's just tons of people complaining and negative attitudes. And so I guess in the midst of all of that, how do you find the power, the conscious ability to not be consumed with it?
Well, I think it really comes down to a filtering and being very conscious and intentional. I think as men, right, we're talking about we have to have the willpower to take control. And this is something that I have seen a lot of guys miss out on is that willpower because they'll go to work, they'll work their butts off, they'll spend their days and evenings and weekends working, but they don't have enough willpower to filter out the negativity in their life. So there's something wrong with that. And so here's a simple concept. It's called replacement is instead of worrying, instead of focusing on something negative, just replace it with something positive. It's very simple to do because if you think about if you're going to spend your time worrying, why and this happens with sales professionals all the time when I coach sales professionals because a lot of times they worry before they go into a meeting, for example, because they're like, am I going to make the sale? Am I going to say something stupid? And here's what I say to them. Why don't you replace that worry time with actually applying it to something productive, like improving your skill or your knowledge so that you're actually prepared. A lot of times salespeople are worried because they don't feel prepared. So rather than spending that time worrying, spend it actually getting prepared. So it's a fundamental principle in terms of where you put your focus and where you put your energy. Those two things are most important. So I think once you get into a groove of things, it's easier to do. Here's something important when it comes to the psychology and even down to the neuroscience of the brain, for example, is when it comes to negativity is a lot more easier to foster in the brain because our brain is about survival, right? And it's about, okay, how do we make ourselves safe? And what we do is we actually add on to those negative ideas because that our brain naturally does that. Plus, we find people who are negative because if we're all cautious and if we're all negative, we might actually be better. We might actually survive compared to the ones that are optimistic. So there's a natural behavior for us to be negative. I just want to throw that out there because I don't want people to think that they're screwed up because they're negative. I want people to believe and understand that you have the power to actually change that internal, you can say, evolutionary programming. So willpower is important. And once you start making that shift, it's like getting off of sugar, right? The first few weeks are tough, but once you stop activating those neurons in your brain, you don't even feel like having that sugar after a while. Same goes with negativity, man. You talked about Facebook. I go on there maybe post once or twice. I was only on Facebook mainly to send you reach people, use it from a business perspective. I've even dropped that because I've just seen that it's not worth it. It's not like the clientele. It's just honestly a mishmash of crap on there right now. So I've very purposely avoided that from that standpoint. And I'm talking to more and more people and I'm seeing more and more people go downhill, even though that they have nothing to go downhill about. Like we're talking about social isolation, yes, but everything else, their job is still fine, their money's still fine, they're still paying their mortgage, they're in good health, but they're just feeling down and out. And it's just because their neighbors are feeling down and out. It's because their family members are feeling down and out. So I think we as a group need to just be conscious and say, if we come across someone who's feeling negative, let's be optimistic around them Because if we all do that for one person, that creates a ripple effect throughout society. And it's something that it's that tidal wave. We will create so much momentum in the positive direction that it's going to be almost impossible for negativity to come back into it. Why is this important? I think, this podcast again is all about helping you perform better, achieve, and be more fulfilled in life. Optimism. Research studies after research studies have shown that one of the top characteristics of the most successful entrepreneurs, the athletes, the people that have better relationships, is one word. It's optimism. That one word.
Well, I think I recently saw a study, and they were talking about different personality traits and perseverance, the ability to keep going even once you get knocked down, get back up and keep going, is one of the number one personality traits that they find between people who are successful. But if you don't have optimism, you're not going to get back up and keep going when life hits you and knocks you down.
Yeah, actually, that's one of the main characteristic personal traits that they take a look at is how optimistic versus pessimistic you are about life. And there's a strong correlation that they show. You perform in so many different levels better by being more optimistic. So we just how do I put it, man? This is something that's simple. I think let's talk about strategies to be more optimistic now, because I think this is important, because people might be listening and say, yeah, Pradeep, it's easy for you to say I lost my job, right? I can't pay my mortgage. I know someone who died from COVID, all this kind of stuff. And I feel that, and I understand that. We just have to understand that at this point, worrying about it and feeling down about it isn't going to change it. In fact, if you take a look at our brain, one of the biggest challenges we have as people when we get into this state is when we have a problem, what we need to do to get over that problem are two things. A, we got to find a solution to overcome that problem. And B, we got to execute on it. But the first important thing is we have to find a solution. Here's what optimism does. It opens your mind up to options and choices and creativity. It is absolutely critical for you to be optimistic and positive, to be able to come up with ideas to get over your challenges. Negativity shuts down the brain immediately. So if you've lost your job and unfortunately, I'm going to say it, if you're wallowing in the pity, you're not going to be creative enough to be able to find a new job that you want. So let's remain positive.
I think a key aspect to that too is also consciously picking out which type of media and
Mhm.
content you're consuming. I know for myself, when I'm specifically and intentionally picking out the media I consume, I'm able to direct which way my life and my actions go. But when I just turn on YouTube and I let the first thing that pops up in my feed be what plays, I feel like I have less control over my own mental state. So the media that we consume, we have access to so much stuff nowadays, and we have control over what we can take, or what we consume, but we also can just let the algorithms do it for us, or we can just
Mhm.
log in and let Facebook hit us, or Twitter hit us, or YouTube hit us. So consciously picking out what we consume. What about though the people that, and I feel I'm sensitive to this, asking about the people that we hang around, knowing that a lot of people still aren't hanging around other people, but um, the people that we surround ourselves with. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's important because we get most of our energy from other people, right? Not necessarily inanimate objects like your screen or your phone, your cup of whatever it is. We're getting very little energy. We get more energy from living things, and that means we give off energy and we actually absorb energy from them. So we have to be very conscious, and I'm very adamant about this. Don't hang around with negative people unless your positive energy can influence them in the better direction. What do I mean by that? Is if you can pump yourself up to such a degree where you have so much optimism and positive energy that it is contagious for the other people and it raises their level of energy. But if you go in feeling like you're going to feel less energetic, you're going to feel more negative, and they're not going to change, don't hang around with them. don't hang around with them. Think about it from a perspective. Why would you hang around with them? Because a lot of people say, well, I just don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy that just leaves them by themselves because I want to be there for them as a support. Well, guess what? If you're there as a perspective, you're not being a support, you're being an enabler of their behavior. So rather than being an enabler of someone's negative behavior, be a positive influence. My wife, talks about this. When my mom gets in her moods and she calls me and she's in a negative mood, I cut her off. I say, okay, mom, I'll call you tomorrow. I'll see you later. And my wife will be like, why? That's so rude. I'm like, no, because me sitting here listening to her rant about the same thing, if it's something new, I'll listen to it. But if it's about the same thing, it's not helping her at all because she's allowing herself and I'm allowing her to fester on those emotions. So I'd rather talk to her. I'd rather cut her off because that doesn't give her the energy to continue down that negative path. So let's be positive, right? And it's an easy thing to do. There's 3 elements that I want you to take a look at. One is where you put your thoughts. That's important. So put your thoughts in positive things. Watch positive movies, hang around with positive people, enjoy positive things, practice gratitude. The second is physically. You have physical energy. Your body actually helps control your emotions and actually give you energy as well. So go exercise. Very important. Daily exercise, absolutely critical. Eat healthy. Avoid sugar and alcohol if you can, and drugs, right? If we're taking a look at that. So avoid those kinds of things, eat healthy, it will help you. And the third element is actually watch what you say, because what you say comes to fruition. So talk in a positive manner, because when you talk in a positive manner, it actually gives you positive energy and gives the other people positive energy. Those are 3 things that you can do today to just simply change your mood for the positive and help other people too. People are desperate for positivity right now.
So I want to ask one last question before we're out of here, and it's pertaining to the notes. You have a note here that says skepticism versus cynicism, and I've never really even thought about comparing and contrasting the two, but now that I see it, I'm like, oh. So I want to give you a chance to kind of explain what you mean by that.
Yeah. So at heart, I'm a skeptic, and I do that because I'm typically one of the guys that goes into a room because I'm a problem solver, and that's what people pay me for. I find problems and I fix them. Even when someone doesn't feel like they have a problem, I try to find the problem because my mind naturally goes there. So I have to be very conscious of this, and that therefore I am a skeptic. But you have to be a skeptical optimist, is what I call it, right? Because you want to be optimistic, but you want to be able to see if it's actually real, the optimism, because you just don't want to go out there like la la land. Everything's perfectly fine, right? And then just get hit by a bus, because a lot of people end up doing that too. You want to be aware of the facts and actually take a look at what's happening. So skeptics are people that actually go out and say, okay, what's really happening? Let me take a look at all perspectives and let me take a look at the facts and the research and then form an opinion. A cynic is someone that just goes in and says, hey, look, this isn't going to work. And I'm going to give you 20 reasons why. Or their cynics love conspiracy theories, right? Because they're always about conspiracies. And conspiracies are not necessarily facts, right? And so we have to take a look at the difference there. Skepticism is very different than cynicism. And if you find yourself, and a lot of people are, I'm finding that a lot of people have transitioned over into cynicism, for example, especially with COVID and people questioning COVID and the vaccine and everything that's happening. That's fine, right? But look for the facts, be aware, take a look at that and say, okay, are you actually being a cynic because other people are being cynics around you? Or have you actually taken a look at all the different facts? Have you talked to people concerning the situation? That is the big difference. So be a skeptic, but be a positive or optimistic skeptic.
I'm going to add, as a marketer, people conspire. I get paid to help people conspire. So I don't know if I am against conspiracy theories, but as far as in my own life, I went down a rabbit hole years and years ago after 9/11 happened, where I let all of the changing laws and all of the crazy conspiracy theories at that time completely suck the life out of me and divert me from going on my path in life that I wanted to go on. So
Mm.
be aware, people do conspire. I mean, it's what and we can conspire for good, we can conspire
Mhm.
for bad. It's something that people do, but to give all of your power to those people and to make yourself a victim of other people's conspiracies is definitely not the healthy way to approach it.
Yeah, I completely agree. 100%.
All right, man. Man, a powerful message for today's podcast. If people enjoyed this and they want to check out more, where's the best place for them to go?
Check out youtubeformen.com or mailpodcast.com.
Awesome, Pradeep. Thank you so much for putting this together, man. And until next time, we will catch you later.
Till next time.
Right.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel for you, man, because I'm looking out and it's sunny.